Hey everyone, Carl Clausewitz, your host. I want to welcome you all to my podcast, an opportunity for you to listen to your favorites here. We'll talk to real people about their real businesses, real inspirations, real struggles, real ideas, real motives, and more importantly, their real experiences. So are you ready to witness it all? Let's get started. Talk about where you're coming from there in Austin.
Excellent, yes. It's a beautiful spring weather in Austin today, and it's a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to the conversation as well. And you're right, I've had an incredible opportunity to work at some amazing companies. I've had an amazing career, and when I look back, I think it's been over 20 years already. It's
Wow.
I don't feel like I'm at a place in my life or age that it's been 20 years.
Yeah,
It
for
doesn't
sure.
feel like it's been that long.
Right?
Starting out, graduating with a social work degree, it was at first hard to even be able to articulate the value that a social worker could have within the workplace in the field of HR. And Microsoft was the first place that noticed that the possibilities, and being able to start out a career in their university recruiting department was incredible.
Oh, wow.
And all the way back in 2000, I think I got to look at how things can be, because they were going paperless then, and things that companies still haven't done today.
Right.
And from a recruiting perspective, the technology that we have today, we didn't have back then, but they themselves were building and simulating a lot of data and efficiencies into the process to make it consistent, to make it human-centered, to really provide that excellent experience for the employees that were coming in to interview and experience what is it like to work at Microsoft in ways I don't think other companies were at the time. They were very cutting edge. Ever since I left Microsoft and I've moved on to other companies, I have always felt like I've gone backwards in time, just because they were so at the forefront. And
Yeah, such a huge company to start with.
Yeah, and it was really exciting because they were very innovative. I don't think a lot of people always think about that when you're thinking about them, but they were. And I still hear from friends that still work there today that they still are. And always giving space. What I loved is that if I had an idea, they gave me the space to try it out and to experiment. And that's really, I think, where my love for agility and iteration, and I didn't know it was agile frameworks or ways of thinking, but that really is what the way Microsoft worked. It really was kind of the beginning of my agile journey. And going from a place of Microsoft, then Expedia was a natural next step. Expedia was birthed from Microsoft. And what was
that's almost around like the birth of Agile too, isn't it? Like the world was just kind of learning about Agile then, I think, right? The methodology and all.
Maybe it was. I didn't know about it back then. It was in 2000. I think it was birthed before 2000.
Okay.
But I think maybe
still pretty young
though,
right?
Yeah, we're starting to adopt it. And yeah, I think so.
So then you kind of followed that thread into other. Okay.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that I also do when I look at the work that I do, when I come into a space, is I really look at the ecosystem, and that's really from a social work lens. You're looking at the people within the ecosystem and starting with the person and really looking at how is this person existing within this ecosystem, and how can we provide a support network and the right tools and resources for the individuals within the ecosystem to thrive, but also looking for ways in which you can work with the ecosystem to align it to better serve and become aware of the population that's within that ecosystem. And so really being able to take a holistic lens in order to think about current state and really root cause analysis to really say what's kind of holding this person from realizing their full potential, and also then where is that future desired state to create a roadmap or a bridge to really help that person walk across to be able to get to their kind of that future desired place, in a more evolved ecosystem, you would hope. And, so that often means I work myself out of a job, and I'm okay with that, because a lot of the times you're optimizing and you're creating efficiencies that maybe other people didn't see. They're kind of understanding, if I move this one thing over here in the ecosystem, it's going to have a ripple effect and going to change the other parts, the other levers or wheels in the ecosystem, and how might it change, and starting to hypothesize what that might be, and think about the long-term impacts of the change before you even make it. I think that's why that scientific mindset is so important, and to have hypotheses to help inform better decisions, and really starting with the end in mind, and really thinking through not just doing change for change's sake, and really being thoughtful about kind of what will this impact be, and is it the right impact that we want to have right now, right? Just I think some people often think any change is better, but it isn't always, right? There may be something even more important that you could do or focus on that makes those other things you don't even need to do. And so I think, at Expedia, I had the opportunity to work myself out of a job, which is what I did. And then that created greater opportunity to really raise my hand and kind of jump into a project to help build the first entity of Expedia in Switzerland. And
awesome.
That was amazing. I think that's another thing for me, is I'm willing to try things out, even though I may not have prior experience, because I love to learn, and I'm curious, and I'm not afraid to ask for help or to know when I need to lean in and be resourceful, and really find and connect with the people in the ecosystem that I'm going to need to take along with me. I think often people sometimes, especially when they're young in their career, want to do it themselves and prove something to the world, right? And then they get comfortable, and they're not as willing to take risks, because, in order to prove something on your own, you need to be in control, and that can really limit your possibilities. And so I often, when I mentor people, I think that's one of the things that helped me in my career, was I realized that you need others to surround you. You're only as good as yourself, and you need to collaborate and to find the strengths in others that are your weak areas, and that together you're going to accomplish something even better. And so that's what we did at Expedia. That was the only way that would have been possible, and what an incredible opportunity then, once the entity was set up, to be able to sit and provide kind of HR leadership for that site for 3.5 years.
Wow, neat. That's so much to take in and think about.
A lot right there, right?
Yeah.
Reminiscing. There's often, when I think back about my journey and where it has led me, there's things that, looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, like that's like a nugget of wisdom that is still is good that would be good for me to use today. And often we forget about some of the things that we just naturally did, and like, oh man, yeah, the younger version of myself, maybe I need a little bit of that today.
Yeah, right. It sounds like it's such a balancing act between the needs of the individual and the needs of the company. And so how have you managed that, or do you find that to be exciting? Or
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Man, that's so true. And even as a recruiter, often you're looking at not just, hiring someone to sit in a seat. I think often we were goaled to have a high offer acceptance rate. And so you didn't want people to decline you. You didn't want them to not come. But the thing is that I saw early on, because I had that holistic view of the ecosystem, and understanding what is the ecosystem of Microsoft, that not everyone, even though they're the best at what they do and that they're the best from the school and they could have done the job very well, but because of who they are as a human or what they value, if that wasn't in alignment with Microsoft, then they would be unhappy and could get frustrated, and that has long-term impacts not only on them but on the team and the manager, and then that often causes friction that doesn't necessarily have to be there. So that you're right, that social work lens all helps in, I'm just using this as an example, especially with recruitment, where you need to really think about that person and what they bring into the ecosystem and how does that fit or not, and how is that value alignment or behavioral alignment or the competencies, like how does that strengthen and add to the culture, or is it just frictional? And is that something the person's aware of, and they can choose to say, I recognize this and I'm okay and I want to adopt the way of the ecosystem, or that this is so true to who I am, you're right, this is not a good fit. I had a couple of conversations with young people that would have been amazing at Microsoft, but there was a kind of a focus of value that was misaligned. And one time the person was really interested in nonprofit work and community. And yeah, sure, in your hobby and your free time, Microsoft had amazing opportunities to give back to the community and to volunteer. But I was really sensing from getting to know him that was more of a purpose for him and a value and a calling that really, if he could find a way to align that with his work and his gifts, that he would be much happier than if he was sitting at Microsoft. And we had a very honest conversation. And so he decided not to come to Microsoft, which for me is a negative ding. But I think long term was a good positive for the ecosystem. It doesn't become a problem later for an HR business partner trying to have difficult conversations between a manager and an employee who may be unhappy. And he wrote me 2 years later, and I'll never forget that email from that candidate. He said, Mindy, thank you so much. I would have completely accepted the job at Microsoft, but instead I went to go work at this nonprofit, and he was the happiest that he ever was. And that was just really, I carried that with me. And you're right, it is
That's
important
amazing.
to think about the people and how they are aligned with the ecosystem.
Yeah, I think lots of times nowadays companies try to fire their way out of problems with staff, or just think that turnover will fix the problem. And I think that you can find a lot more value in sticking with people and believing in them than just always trying to find the next person.
Yeah, that's such a great question, Carl. Obviously, depending on the company and where they're at, sometimes, unfortunately, they have to make a decision that they do. But if they have the opportunity, if they can, not knowing the specific situations, being able to take a step back and making sure you're not coming from a place of scarcity, that you're making a decision quick without really kind of thinking through like that ripple effect that we're talking about, and really thinking through and understanding what are the needs of the organization, and do we truly understand the talent and the skills that the employees within this organization have, and are there different ways that we could be leveraging that talent? So we may need to stop doing some things as a company in order to lean into other areas. Like we may have to stop making some products, but the people who are working on those products, do we have ways to leverage them maybe in different roles? Like, is there a possibility to think through that? But often companies don't even understand the true skills and capabilities of their workforce. And how do we think about reskilling and upskilling that talent? And they also, like with performance, often when we get to a place where we have a manager and an employee where we feel there's friction, I feel like the companies that do this well, that really provide employees and managers with the tools and resources to be able to build the muscle of emotional awareness, of understanding, where am I coming at in this conversation? What part am I playing? And versus the other person, and how are we in working together, and have I as a manager done a good job of being able to articulate to my team about where the company is heading and what the business objectives and strategy are, and how does that impact my team today and where they need to be, and am I providing my employees with the right experiences to grow their skills, because I can see the company is moving in a different direction or evolving, and there's a horizon event that's going to be happening, and how my team is going to align to help the company be successful. There are some things that my team is going to have to start doing differently, or start to pivot in order to align with that business strategy to be successful. And I, as a manager, need to make sure I'm doing a good job of providing experiences so that my employees, their skills don't become obsolete, so that they can evolve as the company is going to need their jobs to evolve. But that goes back again to putting on a different mental model of how we work. So instead of thinking about directing the human in a job, I need to think as a manager, how am I orchestrating, or how am I thinking about, being able to evolve skills and capabilities as for our team to be successful, for the company to be successful. But that's a different way of thinking, and it's a different muscle that managers haven't always had to use. And managers aren't born with these skills and capabilities, and so companies that support their managers and their employees with the right experiences, with the right tools and resources to grow these type of muscles, to think in these type of new ways, are successful in being able to evolve and to be able to have real conversations around what is expected of me? What does success look like? And how do we just have a meaningful conversation around when are those expectations being met? What is that clarity of result? And what is the clarity of progress? And when I get stuck, why am I getting stuck? And being able to coach employees through that versus just directing them. Because if you're directing someone, they're probably missing a learning opportunity. They're just then acting on what you told them to do versus really reflecting on what are some of the behaviors that led to this result, and what are some new behaviors that I need to be putting on and changing and growing in order to have different outcomes in the future. And so all of this to say, all of these things that if we're not doing them, we could have hired a great person and their job's evolving, but if the manager and the employee aren't doing the work to stay aligned and set clear expectations, to have ownership, to have, clear conversations around how are things working or not, then you're not growing in the role and you are becoming obsolete. And it's not that you're a bad person. It's that we, unfortunately, together, we missed an opportunity for you to evolve with this job, and for you even to know, do you enjoy how the job's evolving? Maybe you're no longer even enjoying the work. Mm-hmm. So there's so many different aspects to this, it's very complex. It's not easy. And how we think as an organization around even just this little example, and how are we supporting these type of conversations and connections and relationships. Often then, because we're not doing that, we're taking the quick route to let someone go. Someone's become a problem. When we look at it, both us as a company or us as managers as well as employee, we both own things that we didn't do that led us to this point.
Right. Yeah, it kind of makes me think of orchard and fruit on the tree, and like the fruit is dying on the tree and instead of being harvested and eaten,
Oh, Carl, I love that you use that picture. I use a forest analogy as well. So
Okay.
when managers are talking with me and often coaching, they have, managers, one of the easiest steps to take, often very practical things that you can do is, how am I utilizing my one-on-ones? I know that seems so easy, but often so overlooked.
Yeah.
Like, the conversations that we have today, how do we just fine-tune what we're already doing to make them more impactful, to just shift them to get to the outcomes that you and I are talking about right now? And so often, when I think about one-on-ones versus a greater kind of career conversation or having a more holistic view, I often say, in week over week in your one-on-ones, you're probably addressing one or two trees in the forest. But your greater care is the forest. But in your one-on-ones, how are you talking and really connecting with your direct reports about taking care of a few trees? But you need to make sure that maybe every other one-on-one, or at least once a month, that you're taking a helicopter view up over the forest. Right. And you're looking at the overall forest, and now you can see trends. You can start to see over the course of the last couple one-on-ones the different trees we've been taking care of, and how do they look? Yeah. Are they looking like they're flourishing? And so, why are those flourishing? What things did we do there that we should amplify, do more of? And where are the trees that are struggling, where they have less fruit? And maybe those are why is that? What led to that? And those are probably opportunities that we can lean into to understand what are different behaviors that I can put on as an employee? What are different things that I could be doing that would lead to healthier outcomes, healthier trees, thus, greater productivity, profitability, all of this. And so, thinking about how are we in the one-on-ones, making sure that we're not just task-oriented and just thinking about, the day-to-day, but also stepping back. It's an ecosystem again, right? It's taking a step back and making sure that we're seeing the overall trends.
Well, it can be hard to stay growth-oriented too, because growth by nature is uncomfortable and not always comfortable and outside your comfort zone. So to really step back and be critical about your position can be difficult sometimes for people.
Which is where that trusted relationship and that being able to feel that you are in it together is so important, and that a manager as coach is supportive, and in a healthy manager-employee relationship, that growth critical conversation, it doesn't feel much like that, right? It feels like it's coaching, and it often the difficult conversation just feels like, oh man, I didn't realize, thank you so much. And it's not like, it's like you're realizing it for yourself. The really good managers are asking questions that lead the employee to awareness, that then, and then they're asking the questions, and together they're thinking about different future outcomes and what might that look like, and how the manager then can support and come alongside that employee to realize that.
Yeah, like if the employee identifies their own goal and decides they want to reach it, just like a little kid, they're going to be way more likely to get there.
Perfect example, too, when I say orchestrating skills, people may ask, well, what is that? What does she mean by orchestrating skills? This is a perfect example of that is orchestration versus pure direction.
Right. I love it. Yeah, that's great. Great stuff. So what do you think now is important? Where do you think HR is going now? So many people are concerned about the role of AI and society and all. And what are you excited about for the future?
I'm such a positive person. There's a a lot that I'm excited about. I love, and I really love technology, and we need to be thoughtful about how we use technology. And I think how we use technology needs to also change, because some of the ways that the technology that we're using in workplaces today are based on old mental models. And those mental models, those ways of working often came out of the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
And they're holding us back.
Yeah.
And we need to, and I think with the uncertainty in the world, we hold on to the things that are comfortable. And we're not even aware that we're doing it.
Right.
And as HR people in the profession, I think that we have an awesome opportunity to be able to help come alongside our leaders and to coach them to create awareness around how are these old mental models showing up, and how are they hindering us, and how are they hindering the business and that flow of revenue and the impact that we have to our customers to be relevant. And what might it look like if we were to try different mental models, and what could those outcomes be, and how might we just try, what are just a few things we could try and experiment with to see if our hypothesis is correct. And so how could we start to think through and have that growth mindset to try things out? And it doesn't even have to be expensive, right? Like, there's easy ways that, when you're thinking about human-centered design and thinking about Agile, you can experiment by doing like a mock-up, like working with a group of employees, a focus group, and walking them through what the solution might look like to get feedback. And you don't even have had to launch anything yet. And I think often people think of trying things out and experimentation as an investment. You don't have to even purchase the thing. It's better, because you probably don't even know what the actual problem is. So actually, like, doing some of the like, thinking of what is the smallest thing that I could do that could get feedback in order to get data to even see if this is a good option or not. Does this even solve the problem? Those experimentations actually may lead you to an understanding of what the actual problem is. You thought you knew it, because when you actually get to understand, what is the actual problem here, then that helps you clarify what actually is that end result that I want. Is it really what I thought it was? Before you make an investment in a solution, because then you can find right-sized solutions for the actual problems. And trying things out feels a lot safer, and it helps you be able to move into different ways of thinking and holding space for thinking about it differently. And you can start small. You start with one thing, like, even if it's just onboarding. Most companies I know have an opportunity to improve onboarding. And it's a great place to think and be able to experiment and start to work with your employees and create a solution with them in mind and bring them into that. It doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't have to be complicated. But just try it out. That's what I'm excited about, Carl. You asked me what I'm excited about.
No, that's awesome. That's a great answer.
About how can we think about working in different ways to create healthier workplaces and healthier well-being for employees.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So this is the kind of thing that you do now as an entrepreneur to help companies with things like this. So you just ride in on your white horse? What is that like?
I don't know. I definitely don't ride in on a white horse. I am not what makes it sound like I am some magician or something. No, and it's not. It goes back to what we were saying. It's you have to be a guide. You have to coach. They most people have the solution. They just need someone that asks the right questions, that helps them unlock it and shows them how it's possible, and it helps kind of max out maybe the first or two steps. And so I actually like to think that I'm more like a guide.
That's great. Yeah,
I think people often they get so, when you're stuck with your mental models and the way that things used to be, it's hard to imagine anything different. And it's hard to imagine what could be different. And so that, I think that's what I like to think that I'm good at being able to help come alongside companies and HR leaders to co-create a different way of how could this look, and then how can we make that happen.
Yeah, even at the individual level, it's like you don't know what you're not doing.
Right. And who is even in our workforce? Who are our employees? I think, user-led design also, like Agile, Carl, you're right, it's not new. Like, there's people that have been doing this, and even in many of our workplaces, if we have design teams, and they're doing these things. And so if you can't afford to hire someone externally, go find the people that are doing that in their job today, like that are working to create a different experience for your customers. So even marketing, or the people that are helping design experiences for your customer, all you have to do is just shift that to our employees are our customer. And so how might I learn from actually our current employees, how they're doing what they're doing, and how I may overlay that into what I'm doing today as an HR person.
Oh, I love that. That's a great flip to think about it like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what else, if I were interested in finding out more about your services, and how do I go about enrolling help from you?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. So I just started my LLC in September of last year.
Oh, awesome! Congratulations!
So I don't have a fancy website or anything yet.
Okay.
I did create a one-page microsite off of Canva, and that you can find a link to from my LinkedIn page. My company is called Agile and HR, and I have a LinkedIn page for my company. And so you can find and learn more about what I do on my LinkedIn page, and kind of view I would say it's an MVP. It's a first experiment of a company webpage. I think, I'm still exploring, how is it that I best help come alongside companies and do what I do, and advising and guiding young HR leaders that maybe are just a team of one and need help thinking through some of these things. So I think it's ever changing, and as I start to work with companies in different ways, I like to think we're all kind of an evolution in the process. So.
Yeah. I really think that, small businesses are such a huge part of our economy. I think $1 and $2 million companies are like 85% of the economy or something like that. So it's really, that's what keeps us going.
And that's such a good point, right? Like, I've worked in larger organizations, and I've worked in smaller organizations, and that's actually one of the reasons why I started doing what I do, because I saw my friends who work in smaller companies, like of 20 people, and they didn't even have an HR person. And how could you even help companies with 20 people have a great culture, be able to, find ways to automate, you can do that in an affordable way. And they just need someone to come alongside of them and kind of guide them in how to do that. And so with Agile and HR, I'm able to help organizations that I wouldn't have without having started what I'm doing.
That's huge. That's awesome. That's really great. I mean, yeah, and like you said, to be able to help companies that don't even have an HR department and understand some of these mindsets to really be able to help their people, I think is probably pivotal to success as a business, I would imagine.
Yeah. And sometimes they just don't know who to connect with that's going to be able to like come in and help them, even from like a payroll and benefits aspect. There's so many different solutions for being able to provide benefits to employees. And so what is the best provider for them? So I love connecting people. I like to think it's one of my superpowers. And I love meeting people and learning about what they do and then being able to, match them with the person that needs what they do. And so I'm not 100% a solution for everyone, but I usually like to think I do know someone that will be. And so if I can't do it, I probably know someone that can.
That's great. That's awesome. I love it. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on today? Did you have any other thoughts?
Well, I just would love to hear, Carl, like as a coach, like how do managers often hear, okay, great managers look like coaches. What does that, if they've never coached before, if they've never had the opportunity to work with someone like you, what is like one easy thing that managers could start doing to really put on the mindset of a coach for their employees?
I think the biggest thing that I've found is the mindset of the servant leader, to be thinking about how you can best help your people and be there to support them. And so if you really want to be a great leader, then you think about how you can do that and really help people and lead from the bottom. And I think too many times people get hung up on this old school management from the top down and tell everybody what to do and give them directives. And I think there's a kind of a new era almost of this. People are understanding the value of being a servant leader. I think it's changing cultures.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
So I think that's the biggest thing the biggest mindset that I see, that if people just try to keep that in mind, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So that's your superpower. You help come alongside people to learn how to grow muscle in that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Supporting people, believing in people. That's really the value of coaching, and you have to just start with yourself, I guess.
Right. And sometimes that's just what someone needs, right? To be seen and heard and know that someone cares for them.
Yeah.
And that they're valuable as a human.
Right.
Yeah, that's so powerful, Carl, what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been such a joy getting to know you and to have this conversation.
Definitely great speaking with you, Mindy. And I hope we can have a follow up.
Yes,
and
let's do that.
Stay in touch and
Of
continue
course.
to help each other.
Yeah, I would love it.
Okay.
Please do.
Awesome.
This is just the beginning of a journey.
Right on.
Start.
Right on. Definitely.
Okay. Excellent.
Well, have a great rest of your week. And
Yeah.
Hey guys, that was all for today. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. And if you did, don't forget to like it and share it as much as possible. We'll meet here again, same time, same place, but with new guests. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube as well. I'm Carl, your friendly life coach, signing off. Take care. Bye.